Ready to today's program. We are going to record the program so that for anyone who is not able to attend, they have access to the information as well. I am going to share a lot of information with you today, but it's not meant to be exhaustive. It's really meant to be a starting place for you to think about what you can research and look into for this summer. I think that you should also know that this is not urgent, right? The reason why we're holding the program today is so that you can watch it as you think about preparing your cover letter and your resume and think about doing your individual career plan. But none of the deadlines for next summer are coming up rapidly. And so let's start with sharing a little bit. I'm just going to share my screen about what to expect in terms of timelines for various offices. Okay. Okay, so for your 1L summer internship, couple of things just to keep in mind. One is that many of these positions are volunteer unpaid positions. And so I only tell you that in order to sort of set your expectations. However, next semester you will learn about funding opportunities that are available through fellowships. So although you may land up accepting an unpaid 1L summer internship, it may be possible to get funding for it next semester. And we'll provide information for you about that. All right, so as I mentioned, first things first, in terms of timing, most of the applications for 1L summer internships will not be due until after your fall semester grades are available. If you should come across an application that's due before your grades become available, my advice is to go ahead and apply, providing the documents that you can provide, and then follow up with a copy of your grade report as soon as you have it. But I think you'll note that with pretty limited exception, most of the deadlines are not going to occur until mid-December, and you should be able to have your grade report for those. All right, so the first place to start, and you're going to get really tired of us saying this, but it really is Albany Law Link. And the reason for this is because our partner employers typically will send us directly internship postings for all sorts of opportunities, and we make sure to post them in Albany Law Link. If you go on right now, or if you've been playing around and looking at the non-OCR job postings, you'll note there's not a lot up there for 1Ls yet. But again, that's because of the timing issue. We are ahead of schedule. All right, sorry about that. Okay. So in addition to Albany Law Link, there are many other places to look for your 1L summer internship. So I want to bring to your attention some of the more common and really well-reviewed internship opportunities. Again, I want to mention this presentation is not meant to be exhaustive. It's really just to provide you with a starting point, and we will make the slides available after to everyone, the whole 1L class. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask them at the end. All right, so the first place where many of our 1L students land up finding a summer internship is with the various U.S. attorneys' offices. So you probably, or maybe you have learned at this point that there are 4 districts in the state of New York. And I'll use New York as an example because I'm most familiar with the New York districts. So each of the federal districts in New York, the Northern District, Southern District, Eastern District, and Western District, has a United States Attorney's Office, which falls underneath the jurisdiction of the Department of Justice. Each U.S. Attorney's Office hosts legal interns as volunteers for the summer. In order to find those opportunities, I think that what you can start with is just looking directly on the U.S. Attorney's website for each district and noting the timeline and the application materials that are required, okay? Another place where you're gonna find federal government internships is the Arizona Handbook. I sent an email with the password and the link earlier today. What I really like about the Arizona Handbook is not only will you find internships with the Department of Justice, you're going to find the internship opportunities with pretty much every federal agency that takes legal interns, in addition to state and local governments that also take summer interns. And the nice thing about the Arizona Handbook is that it's organized so that you can search by 1L internships and deadlines. So I encourage you to start by taking a look at that. And then the last thing I just wanted to bring to your attention, and you will probably get to this site through the Arizona Handbook site as well, is usajobs.gov often lists internships with the federal government agencies and some of their summer honors programs. So if you go onto that site and you search for legal internships, you'll see that there's a portal you can apply to for federal internships there as well. All right, so that's just broad strokes, federal government internships. Now I want to take 1 second to talk to you a little bit about federal judicial internships. And many of you could have already heard about the advantages of interning for a federal court judge in your 1L summer. It's a great opportunity because it provides you with excellent research and writing experience, which is a really important skill set to develop. And many of our judges here in the Northern District and all across the other districts, not just in New York, but in pretty much every state, take summer interns. Now, again, the thing to remember is typically to apply for a federal judicial internship, you are going to need a really well-written cover letter, a resume, a writing sample, which generally students use their 1L first semester memo as the writing sample, and your grade report. And the unusual thing about applying for these internships is that you're not going to find any portal or listing where you can apply online. And instead, students have to actually mail their applications to each judge at the court to which they are applying. So that's why you'll note here what I've included is actually the website for each of the districts. Again, I used New York as an example, but certainly last summer I had someone go to Utah. So you really can apply to any of the district courts where you have a connection and you're interested in being. I do want to make sure that you understand, I've heard from students that this is the best internship to do in the summer. I think it's a great internship, but I wouldn't rate internships like that. And so make sure that you are open when you're considering all of your options. And make sure if you are applying for a federal judicial internship to work really closely with your career counselor on perfecting that cover letter and resume. Okay. State government internships. Sorry, you know what? Let me go back for 1 second. For the federal judicial, if you are going to pursue one of these, I encourage you to have your documents ready so that you can send out your application materials as soon as you get your grade report. Okay, and that's just a timing issue. All right, moving on. State government internships. So again, similar to the federal agencies, New York state agencies pretty much all take 1L summer interns. And you're going to find the internships posted on the New York State New York Leaders Portal. You will not see anything posted yet because it's a little bit early for these internships. Typically, a lot of these state agencies interview on campus in the spring semester. So look for, you'll get a notice about the spring on-campus interviews. But there's nothing to stop you from taking a look at this portal from time to time and just keeping an eye on some of the internships that do become available. I know one of the ones that is very popular is the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. And so that's just one example of an internship that you want to pay attention to so that you're ready to apply when it becomes available. The other office that we see many students intern for, because there are so many different bureaus, is the Office of the New York State Attorney General. Incredible experience. And last summer, they were really terrific about moving many of their opportunities to remote possibilities so that students didn't lose their internships. And so you'll note that you can apply, again, directly through their website, and not until the spring semester will those open up. So, but it's something to keep an eye on so you're ready to apply when the time comes. Okay, so now I want to talk to you a little bit about New York State judicial internships. Many of the judges in the 3rd Judicial District will post their opportunities with us. And as I said earlier, we'll post them on Albany Law Link so they're available to all of you. Having said that, if you would like to intern for a judge, let's say in the 4th Judicial Department or in the 1st Judicial Department, you should feel welcome to go directly to the New York State Unified Court System, where you're going to find a listing of all the state courts and the judges. And again, similar to applying for the federal judicial internships, you can send a cover letter, resume, writing sample, and your grade report to any of the state court judges. And oftentimes they have robust internship programs. And I think it's particularly useful if you happen to know you're interested in a specific type of practice, because the state court judges, the courts are broken down a little bit more in terms of identifying criminal court judges versus family court judges versus civil litigation or commercial litigation judges. So think about that in terms of identifying possible judicial internships. And then I didn't want to stop at federal and state. I thought it was really important to also mention that there are many local government internships for 1Ls for summer. One that is a really terrific program and is a little bit unusual in that I think it's a paid summer internship program is the New York City Law Department. Again, it's similar to the Attorney General's office in that it has many different bureaus. And so there's a lot of opportunities there for you to identify internships. Again, you should probably go, or you should definitely go directly to their website just to note the timing for the application. Again, it probably won't have opened yet for next summer for 1Ls, but it should shortly. The other local government opportunity that many of our students participate in during their 1L summer is with district attorneys' offices. So I was not going to list each and every district attorney's office throughout the state of New York, but suffice it to say, each and every one of them is capable and generally willing to to host a 1L intern. I note that the Manhattan District Attorney's Office is probably the earliest office in terms of opening up their applications and expecting and having an earlier deadline, which this year is December 15th. So December 15th is probably going to be the earliest deadline that you're going to be faced with in terms of applying for summer internships. Albany County will participate in our on-campus program, and that will happen in January or early February. Okay, so I'm distinguishing here, and I think it's really important to explain this. I'm distinguishing government internships from public interest internships in the sense that, in my mind, a public interest organization is an organization that provides direct legal services, generally speaking, to individuals who cannot otherwise afford representation. And so an example of a public interest organization is the Legal Aid Society of Northeastern New York, or Legal Services of Western New York. And there is a fantastic website called psjd.org that lists virtually every public interest organization with a legal internship. So in addition to actively searching the internships that are available, you can also search the organization. For example, if you're interested in education, you can search for organizations that do work around education, and you can apply to them directly, even if they don't yet have a posting up. The other organization that is really great for public interest is Equal Justice Works. Equal Justice Works has several summer fellowships. So I know that one of the sponsoring organizations is Legal Aid Society of Northeastern New York, but there are many organizations that have Equal Justice Works fellows during the summer, where they host the intern and then EJW pays a small stipend. That's something to keep in mind. And then, of course, Idealist, which many of you may be familiar with from your undergraduate educations. It's another great site for finding opportunities with public interest organizations. Okay, a word about fellowships and diversity opportunities. There are so many for 1L students. In terms of fellowships, the New York State Bar Association is a great place to look for summer fellowships, and some of them are really well paid and provide for the opportunity to have both an internship experience and funding for the summer. They also list a good deal of scholarships, which is great in terms of using that money to pay towards your tuition. So I highly recommend you look at that, as well as the American Bar Association. And then I didn't want, again, to list every bar association, but if you're interested in any particular area, geographic area, it's a great place to start. Start with that county's bar association and just take a look at what fellowships or diversity initiatives they might be supporting. Okay, finally, private law firms and companies. there are not a great deal of private law firms that hire 1Ls for summer intern positions. And the reason being that they are a for-profit company that is more interested in law students with a little bit more experience. Having said that, there are a pretty good number of general counsel's offices with corporations and which will offer internships to 1L students and will give you great experience into what it means to be the general counsel for a company. And that can really cover a range of different practice areas and give you great exposure. So we often post these internships on Albany Law Link. Specifically, we have one with, the company is no longer called Kate Spade. It's called Tapestry Inc. Bristol Myers Squibb has an internship that I believe is a diversity-based internship. And then there are loads of other possibilities. I highly recommend you look at LinkedIn Jobs and Indeed for these types of opportunities and set up an alert for yourself in terms of keeping track of those. Okay, so now I'm going to stop my share and see if I can answer any of your questions, because I just probably overloaded you with information.
If many of the internships aren't paid, how many hours a week are they about?
So it ranges. It depends on the employer, but they can be 35 hours a week. And so typically what happens is students get some kind of stipend, right? So as I mentioned at the beginning, there are many dean's fellowships and various other types of fellowships that can be used to fund these. Also, what some students do is they elect to do the internship for credit. So in other words, you could intern with an organization, as long as it's not a for-profit organization, you can intern for the organization and then you can enroll in the summer in practice program and do the internship for credit. Any other questions?
How many internships do you usually recommend students apply for?
Good question. I don't know if I could quantify it. I think that if you're applying with really good materials and you're being strategic about your applications, right, and thinking about why this would be a good fit, you'll probably be fine applying for 25 or 30 and feeling rest assured that you're going to land up with a 1L internship. I've never had a student in their 1L year not get an internship where they pursued it in earnest. So I would say, as long as you're working pretty closely with your career counselor on sort of what you're doing, the steps you're taking, you'll be fine. It's very attainable.
Could I ask a question about kind of like the selectability of it?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously like 1L grades are really important. So is that kind of like how they determine whom they're going to select? Just because I feel like, and I know that we have a meeting, so stop me if this is going to get covered, but it's sort of like we're all, equal playing field because, we're just kind of like 1Ls. So like my question, I guess, is how do they actually determine like who they're going to have as an intern?
Okay, so it's a great question. Employers, let me start from the very first thing that you said. Some employers are very selective when it comes to grades. There is no doubt about that. Some aren't. Some really care about what you are interested in doing and whether or not you're applying to them in earnest. So what they do is they look at your cover letter and they treat it like a writing sample. They look at your resume and they say, and they also look for a demonstrated interest, right? So is there anything that you volunteered for, internships you've had, classes you've taken that resonate with what they do? And then yes, they also consider grades. But I don't think that, I'm going to say that most employers for your 1L summer are less concerned about the grades than they are about you putting yourself forward in the most positive light. I think the benefit of, so it really stinks that many of these are unpaid. That, let me just say that right now, right? It really stinks. But the benefit of it being unpaid is that these employers come into the summer with the understanding that they're really there to teach you and mentor you. And they want you to come away from the summer with a really rich experience. So in the sense that they're going to screen looking for someone who really wants to be there. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think, I mean, you know, I guess in conjunction with like grades, it's, I guess they only have so many seats. So they're trying to allocate like, you know, people who actually, you know, it's like, if you want to be a patent attorney, why would you intern at the DA's office?
Yeah, yeah. Now, having said that, listen, they've all been in your shoes. That's the beauty of being in a profession that's, you know, it's narrow in that sense, right? They're all lawyers. They've all been 1Ls. They can totally appreciate that it's okay if you can't come into an interview and say, this is exactly what I want to do with my life and I want nothing else, right? So don't be afraid to, don't be afraid to stretch yourself in terms of where you're applying, right? It doesn't have to be a perfect match. You just have to be able to convey in your cover letter why you want this. Why does it make sense?
I have a question. Since we have to like basically send applications in like January or after we get our grade reports, when are most decisions like made then? What'd you say?
They happen, I think they happen, well, okay, so it varies, right? I will say that my experience with students applying for the federal judges, the turnaround is pretty quick. So let's say you get your application out in the middle of or end of December, those decisions turn around in about 2 weeks.
That's quick.
That's quick, yeah, I agree. Having said that, and I would say similarly, the U.S. attorney's offices are pretty quick turnarounds. District attorney's offices varies by county. Manhattan is going to be pretty quick. Albany makes their decisions later, but their whole process is later. So again, it's probably about 2 weeks. I'm going to say on average, but then there are some outliers, and that's where it's really important to stay in touch with your career counselor and get some advice on how to follow up. Because you may have situations where you're getting an offer, but you're still waiting to hear from your very favorite one that you want. So we can walk you through how to handle that.
I had 2 quick questions as well. You had mentioned that internships can be taken for credit, and I was just wondering if you can still be paid for an internship if you're taking that internship for credit, or can you not do both?
That's such a good question. You're correct. You cannot do both. You can either get paid or do it for credit. There may be some exception to that, and I'll explain what I mean. If you have set up a summer internship where you would like to do it for credit, and the credit hours are going to be fulfilled in the first 5 weeks of the internship because you're working a lot of hours, then you can use the remaining credits to get paid. You just can't use the same credit hours for both.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Sure.
My other question was, you had mentioned that these are all things we can talk about when we meet with our career counselor. I was just wondering when that will occur.
Okay, so great question. What we have done is we have opened up appointments on Albany Law Link beginning October 15th. So you should log in to Albany Law Link. You will be able to set up an appointment actually now if you look at the schedules. And I think I definitely have appointments available through Thanksgiving. So that's, yeah, you can go ahead, take a look now and set up your first appointment. I think it's really a good idea to make, in order to make the most out of that appointment, take a shot at drafting your legal resume. Go back and look at that video. Take the time to do your individual career plan so you can have a productive discussion about what you want to do and where you might focus your search for your summer. And yeah, that's where you start off. I think Deanna Di Benedetto has her hand raised.
Yeah, that was still me.
Oh, okay.
No, that's okay. It's Dina. But I was just wondering, you just mentioned about the drafting of the legal resume video, and I know that there was a session on that, but I was unable to attend. I didn't know where the videos are being posted.
So the videos are being posted right on the Albany Law Link homepage. And I think, Lima, can you tell me exactly where they are? Are they under archived?
They're under the key resources on the student homepage on the left-hand side.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I wanted to ask about the stipends. Do you know like how many are available, or like what percentage, or does it like depend on like what the living costs or like estimated living costs would be for where someone goes?
It's not dependent on living costs. I don't know off the top of my head how many there are. The list of them will come out of the Office of Student Affairs. And honestly, what I said earlier is true. It comes out not until I think maybe in the middle of next semester. So you may be in a position where you're saying, should I accept this internship and then apply and see if I get the funding? I would suggest that you also look at Equal Justice Works for funding opportunities and New York State Bar Association. And actually, if you have county bar associations that are outside of the area, there is also potential funding with local bar associations.
And I was trying to come for a follow-up question. Excuse me, sorry.
It's okay. Any other?
Yeah, sorry, I was just gonna ask, like, how's the whole, like, is that sort of like an okay thing for like if you have an unpaid internship and you just like sort of stay kind of like unsure through like that whole process? Like, do they ever like pull back offers if you get one, but like still wait out for the stipend?
Yeah, so I think from the employer point of view, if you've accepted with them, right, be really careful. I would say don't ever renege because you didn't get the funding that you thought you were going to get. I mean, it's case by case basis, but just be really thoughtful before you accept a position so that you're not at risk of reneging, just because employers obviously don't like that because they are planning their summer and they're planning to mentor you just as much as you're planning to be with them. So I would say work with your career counselor. You guys are gonna get really tired of me saying that, but really, you know, it should be a situation where your career counselor is advising you on the steps to take so that you don't burn bridges. We don't want you to step on your own toes before you're out of the gate. Okay, so I see a couple hands. Can I start with Abby?
Hi, thanks. I was just wondering if you're anticipating anything different about the process with COVID. And I know everything is probably a little bit up in the air in terms of like the summer internships, but if maybe internships are like already planning ahead in case things are different than usual, or how it worked last year, this past summer.
Yeah, so how it worked last year is that many of the internships were short, the duration was shortened. It was an abridged program and it was entirely remote. I am happy to report that many of the employers had very successful programs. They felt, you know, and the reporting back from students was that the programs were good. So I think worst case scenario, we see next summer being remote internships as well. I hope that's not the case, but it's unknowable right now, right? One thing that I can say that I feel very confident is that interviewing for these positions is going to be remote. And I say this both because, you know, I don't think that employers are going to want to, or frankly, need to hold in-person interviews because what has been happening so far has been pretty successful. So I think that's something that we could see stick around for, I don't know, maybe forever. So that's my prediction. Remote interviewing, possibly remote internships, but I hope not. Okay, sorry, I have to go to my Michael.
Hi, so I know we have assigned counselors, correct? I'm just not sure how to find out who I have been assigned.
Sure. So there is another program that I did a couple of weeks ago on Albany Law Link, just that will help you navigate the system itself. But if you go onto, oh gosh, where is it? It's under your account. And I think it's under contact. You'll see that that is where the name of your career counselor is. I think that's where it is.
It is. I just had it up on my other monitor.
You're right.
Oh,
Yeah, I just followed up. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I see a couple more hands here. Shannon and then Kelsey.
Yeah, so my question actually had to do with if we get credit, like you said, for these summer internships, how is that applied? Like, is that applied to like our fall credits? Do we need to be enrolled kind of in summer courses for that? Is there extra tuition involved in getting credit for your internship?
All great.
All of those things.
Yeah, so yes, and yes. So the summer credits, if you decide to do the internship for credit, they have to be paid for, right? There is a 1 credit seminar that is done remotely that you take that becomes the academic credit, the 1 academic credit for the summer. And then the remaining credits, and I cannot remember off the top of my head because I don't manage the program, so I can't remember how many credits total, but I want to say 6 credits total. Lima, do you happen to know? Is it 6 for summer in practice? Okay, so Professor Brescia, I believe, is the person who will know the information, but I think it's 6 credits total for summer in practice. One of them is the classroom credit, and then the remaining are the practical credits, the skills credits. And where do they apply? They apply to your overall program. So they're going to reduce the time probably that you need to complete the program, and this is where I see that students really do benefit from taking the summer internship for credit. Many students will elect to lighten their fall load so that they can participate in moot court or perhaps journal during their 2L year. So they'll reduce their course load during fall semester of 2L year by a full 5 credit course so that they can do those other things.
And also just curious, how many like out, because I remember you'd said if you had gotten the opportunity to do summer in practice and have a paid internship, how many hours of work are required to fulfill that 5-hour or that 5 credits in practice?
I'm going to have to look that up for you. I'm going to have to, there is a handout on this, and what we can do is we can send it out when we send out the link to the program. Kelsey?
Yep, I was just wondering, so you mentioned that typically students submit a cover letter, resume, and a writing sample. Do we also need references, or is that kind of contingent on the internship that we apply to?
It is. It depends on the internship, but I will say that most of the internships that I see do not ask for references. Most just want the cover letter, resume, transcript, and writing sample.
Okay, thank you.
Just going through and looking for my hands. And I see in the chat that Luke has.
Sorry, yeah, I was just looking at the web page and like it has the hours required and the credits and everything, so I figured I would just send it.
Thank you so much. Love that resourcefulness.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions? All right. The good news, I think, is that there isn't the urgency that you may have thought there was. I hope at least you come away feeling like, okay, this is manageable. There are lots of opportunities for your 1L summer internship. I think it's I like to call it the freebie, because you can do anything this summer and not have to worry about it locking you in or creating some kind of pathway that you weren't interested in pursuing. It's all good, all good. The most important thing for you to get out of your 1L summer internship is a great writing sample, some good experience, and some exposure to something you think you might be interested in. All right, all right. With that said, there are no more questions. I will end the program. We will send out the PowerPoint and the recording, and that way you can always reference it whenever you need to look back, and feel free to make your first appointment. It's going to be fun. Have a good night.
Thank you.